All right, welcome back to the program. So it's important to ask at this point, what's your total well-being without your mental health? Absolutely nothing, right? You know, Kaide was saying earlier on at the start of the program that some workers may not even be going to work under the current circumstances with a long line of queues, which are absolutely bad for one's mental health. Add to that mix high cost of commodities, increase in electricity tariff, just to mention a few. So it's an important conversation to have as we have joining us Dr. Olabanji Adesoji. He's a consultant, psychiatrist, head mental health department, General Hospital Ikorodu. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So straight question, how should we be guarding our mental health amid all of these difficulties?
So thank you very much, because right now we are having a mental health crisis in Nigeria because of the conditions and all the issues that we're having. We must remember that mental health is your state of mental well-being, which is that it differs. So there are days you have excellent mental health, and there are days your mental health has been depleted and stressed out. And that your mental health is what helps you cope with stress, helps you live well, helps you realize your abilities, and contribute to your community. So to the average Nigerian who's going through the issues of no fuel, electricity is expensive, and then all the other stresses of living in life, and then the dollar is 1,300 and whatever, and food price and inflation is very severe, and then your minimum wage has not increased to match up with all these demands. The pressure is real, the stress is real. And what can you do to guard and help your mental health? The first thing I would say is please remember that there's nothing worrying is going to do to solve these problems, because worrying just increases the risk of you having serious problems like anxiety disorders, panic disorders later. So first thing is stop worrying about it. Easier said than done, but that's the first thing. And then the second thing is whatever you know that triggers the pressure, the stress, avoid as much as possible. So for instance, if you know that, look, my salary is 30,000 naira, there are certain things that are going to have to go out of your budget. So for instance, you're going to have to stop paying for DSTV, and you're going to have to stop buying certain things, and understand that your life is not going to be determined because you don't have these things, but that life is in phases, men are in sizes. And so at this phase of your life, do what you can, because you really cannot stress about, okay, comparing myself to my friend who's paying 42 million for a charter school education. And then, of course, the other thing to know is it's difficult, like I said, but you must invest in sleep, because right now, because of the heat, because of the fact that there's no fuel, people's hours of sleep is gradually reducing. You need 8 hours of sleep in the minimum. And what I will tell people is if you have 10,000 naira, 8,000 naira should be spent on whatever helps you sleep better. Because honestly, if you sleep better, it takes care of like 30 to 40% of the issues of stress. Because what happens when we're stressed is that stress builds up a lot of stress hormones like cortisol and all that in your system. And sleep is the means by which your body gets to deal with it. The second thing I would recommend is that you should exercise as much as you can. So yes, you can't afford to Uber or Bolt to the place. So can you walk? And if you can't walk, I would advise that you walk about 30 minutes to 1 hour every day, because what that does is that exercise is called the natural antidepressant. And what it does is that it gives you very good hormones like dopamine, like oxytocin are released as you exercise, and that helps to counter the effects of stress. And then the other thing I would say is eat well, because of course of the financial pressures and all that, you can't afford all the junk food because they're expensive. So eat well. Food is expensive, but I would still tell you that, look, no matter how expensive food is, you can still afford a little thing that you can spend money on that. So fruits are very good, vegetables are very good, processed meats, processed meals are not very good. So right now is the time to cut that out of your diet. And then the fourth thing I would say is you need to build relationships that help you through this. Life is a team event. Most of us like to fly solo, and especially for men. There's this tendency for men to, I don't want to talk to my fellow person what I'm going through, which is the counter for women, where the first thing they're talking about is everything going on in their lives. That's the reason why more women have depression than men, but more men die by suicide than women. And it's because of the fact that you need to talk about these things with your friends, with your family, and they need to help you in this journey. And then finally, thing I would say is you need to develop resilience. COVID happened in 2020, and we thought it was the end of the world. And Nigeria survived COVID and became better for it, I think, in some regards. So all I remind myself when we're going through these issues is that, look, we survived worst time.
Okay, so you mentioned literally like a lot of toolkits, generic toolkits, if I may say, but I want you to zoom in on something you said in passing that has to do with men. Men don't really open up easily, the caveman effect. Maybe you can expatiate on that and also speak to netizens and the Gen Zs who are under avoidable pressure, we must put it that way, all the time to meet up. I don't know where they are racing to.
Okay, we must remember that Gen Zs were born on the internet anyway, so they are netizens, they live there. Every part of their lives is on the internet, is on social media. And if there's anything Gen Z is supposedly better than the millennials, was that Gen Z was the ones that brought up the discussion of mental health and made it normal for us to discuss about it. But the counter to that is the fact that if you spend a lot of time on social media, it is toxic. There are documentary evidence that shows the number of hours you spend on a place like Instagram determines the risk of you developing anxiety disorder. Because if you are comparing your low lives to their highlights, you would definitely think you're not doing well. And so when you're comparing yourself to other people, that is a very difficult place to be. So the apps on phones have actually come out. So most phones now have restrictions, time, where if you spend a number of hours on a certain app, you can actually log off. And I would definitely recommend that. Some people will say, okay, look, there are certain apps I use to rant and to de-stress myself. Places like X, formerly known as Twitter, the Glasgows and all that. But the truth is, it can become toxic. And when it becomes toxic enough, it can lead to severe consequences. So what I will tell the netizens is, the internet is great, but it is so great that you need to take time off from it as much as you can. And for men, the thing is, society, patriarchal society has wired men to believe that, look, you are in this by yourself. If you depend on other people, you are weak. And we need to learn to teach men that there's independence, there's codependence, there's interdependence. And where we need to take all men to is interdependence.
Well, Doctor, I'm enjoying this session, and I know it's been said that our health-seeking behavior, particularly in this part of the world, for normal health issues, not even mental health issues, is not what it ought to be. Talk more for mental health issues. So this morning, I'm going to simulate me coming to you for consultation, free of charge. I know I can get this done on television without paying, so let me make the most of it. So imagine for a moment I'm a patient, an average Nigerian. I have come to you, I've heard you say all of these things, but still, doctor, when I try to keep calm, when I try to sleep early and do all of these things, it looks like my brain is on a constant auto drive, autopilot. It just keeps going. I'm trying to pull it back, but the brain is thinking. Doctor, what do I do?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Kayode, for coming to my clinic today. So what I would tell you first off is, one, those are symptoms of stress, and the thoughts do not mean you're losing your mind. It just means that your brain is on overdrive trying to solve problems that it perceives are too much for it. So the first thing you need to do is to understand what is happening. If you understand what is happening, then we can solve it. So the first thing I would advise you to do is, as much as possible, at least 2 to 3 hours before you sleep, log off everything. So if it is television, if it is your phone, if it is conversations about this issue, log off them at least 2 hours before then. Number 2, I would advise you to do is that when your brain is on overdrive, there's something we call a deep breathing exercise. And what that does is that it calms your brain and your whole body down. So I might not be able to teach you this completely here, and I'll tell you to watch on YouTube. But basically what I'll ask you to do is take a deep breath for 5 seconds, hold your breath for 5 seconds, and then exhale through your mouth slowly for 5 seconds. Do it until you feel yourself calming down. Then the third thing I would advise you to do is, look, take a bath before you sleep as much as possible, because that helps to calm you down. And then whatever conversation or whatever thing you know that can help you to distract yourself from whatever you're going through at that moment in time. If it is music, if it is prayer, whatever it is you can use to distract yourself, I would advise you to do it, as long as what you're using to distract yourself is not going to be toxic. So for instance, I would not advise you to take alcohol. I would not advise you to take any substance. And I would definitely not advise you to watch any program or any TV or movie that increases your anxiety. So those are the things that I would say.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I'll make sure to come for our next appointment while I practice the deep breathing.
And you could have seen Kade there. He was practicing.
I was actually practicing.
And it works, actually. I just felt that calm.
It does.
Yeah. So I wonder if, very quickly now, in about 60 seconds, if you can do this, if that will be the same recommendation that you'd be giving to someone who feels the pressure to perform and experiences something very close to heart palpitations, you know, thinking about what it's going to be like the following day. Add to that, do I have fuel in my car? Do the children have enough to eat? The bills, the electricity, what's it called now? It's almost running out,
right.
you know, and we need to restock. So all of those things that you're worrying about, and then you have heart palpitations. Does meditation work, by the way, doctor?
So first, what you described is what we call a panic disorder, which is that the person starts to feel palpitations, feel they can't breathe, feel they're about to die. And yes, exactly the same thing that I told Mr. Kayode is what I will tell that person. Meditation works, but, and this is the but, you see, meditation and worrying are almost very similar, but there's a thin line that separates them. And what separates them is, in meditation, you direct your thoughts. So most people think meditation is emptying your mind and saying, that's not meditation. That's a kind of meditation, but that's not meditation. Meditation basically is repeating a statement and focusing your mind on that particular thing. So for instance, you have all these bills you have to pay. You have all these myriad of issues that you're going to focus on, and all you think about is a line that says, life will unfold in the direction of my most dominant thought. And so my most dominant thought is me sitting down by a beach in the Bahamas, sleeping on a drink, and thanking and being grateful for all that I have gone through in the past 1 year. When you start, it's hard. But as long as you're able to focus on that line and that image, that is meditation. And it works.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I certainly like that Bahamas part, you know. I have an image of me sipping a coconut drink in the Bahamas, wearing perhaps my swimsuit and stretching my legs.
Or in Lekki.
I want to thank you so much.
Where's that?
You go to Lekki, go to the coastline before the construction starts.
Buy me in Nigeria, we call it.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Olabanji Adesoji, consultant psychiatrist, head mental health department, General Hospital, Ikorodu. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And we have loads of feedback on WhatsApp. So let's see how many we can take. This is coming from Igbele Tom from Jos. Says the pervasive moral decadence should not be accepted as a reason for the massive failure or underperformance. We should look at the pupils individually with the aim of inculcating in them the positive vibe and verve that nation is an open sesame for the future. Education is never a scam.
Kade, did you get that? Just asking. Well, this next one is from Femi Aye from Ojodubaga, who says, I don't believe it's a poor result. University admission is for the creme de la creme of high school graduates. We need to do a trend analysis going back to like 30 years before we conclude. Also, I hope they also publish how many registrants did not sit for the exam at all.
Now, this user on X, Faisal Josman, is talking about the minimum wage conversation, and you should listen to what he has to say. He says, developed countries don't pay hundreds of thousands as monthly salaries, but they have infrastructure that works. Good road, producing fuel will reduce cost of transportation, basic free education will ease the burden on parents, etc. So for this user, says NLC should focus on infrastructure.
All right, this ex-user as well, AOA Tayo, says the only available joy for workers is free air to breathe, just because there is no meter attached. Fuel, water, electricity, food, choke. Which way, Nigeria? All right, thank you for your thoughts.
There you have it. I mean, we've tried as much as possible to just help you walk through some of these thorny issues. And hey, so go out there and ensure to make the very best of the day in spite of those challenges. That's how much we can take on the show. Sunrise Daily is up next. In the meantime, I'm Kayode Okikere.
Yeah, so you're stronger than you think. So hang in there. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am Bukola Koka.
Realize there's not all problem you can solve. Some you just have to go through it and get better on the other side of life. Thank you for watching. I'm Jeff Rosano. Bye.